right. Annette Magnus, Executive Director of ProgressNOW, Nevada.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. I love women's issues. This is what I've done for several years now. So a little bit about ProgressNOW and the work that Jocelyn and I do. Jocelyn, my sidekick, is in the audience, and she is my right-hand woman. So we are a team of 3 right now in Southern Nevada. We have one other person up in Northern Nevada. And we are primarily a communications firm for the progressive community. So the stuff we work on are issues like women's issues, making sure that women have equal pay, making sure that we're talking about income inequality. We were just out with our fast food workers the other day, making sure that they can unionize and organize and have a fair living wage. So we work on other issues too. We've worked on sex ed in the past. We have worked on making sure that women have access to reproductive health care. So there's a lot of different things that we do in our community every day. And like I said, we're primarily a communications firm. So we work on public relations within the progressive community so we can get the word out about why these issues matter to our community. The reason I'm here today is I've worked on women's issues for most of my adult life. That is why I got into politics, is I care deeply about women's issues and education issues. I actually worked at Planned Parenthood for about 6 years, fighting for reproductive health care and access to sex education, real education for our young people. And when Marjorie asked me to come speak, I had to come because this is something that's very important to me. The Equal Rights Amendment is desperately needed in this country, and we know it could do a lot of good for women. But this is not the first time I've spoken at one of these events. I actually spoke at the War on Women rally that Marjorie had 2 years ago now. It was about this time of the year, and we were out downtown. We marched down the Fremont Street Experience and then went over to the 5th Street School and held a large rally over there. And at that time, that's really when the war on women was beginning. We hadn't seen the type of actions taking place federally that we had all of a sudden started to see. We saw that women's reproductive health was under attack, and our way of life and young people's way of life, because young people don't know what it's like to live without birth control or live without the access to choice and other things. We found that our rights were under attack, and we had to go out there and fight for what our foremothers fought for before us. We are lucky in the state of Nevada that we don't usually have a crazy legislature who do bad legislation on women, but we also can't get a sex ed bill passed in our state legislature, so we still have work to do. We are also lucky in the state of Nevada because Nevada is one of 7 states in the country that have codified Roe versus Wade in our Nevada revised statutes, which means if Roe fell federally, we would still have Roe versus Wade here in Nevada. And that's a really important fact because if Roe ever falls, which it can, people don't believe me when I say that, but that's a real thing. If it ever falls, we are still protected here in the state of Nevada, and that's something to be really proud of. The other thing that Nevada has done that we should be proud of is now Clark County Commissioner Chris Giuliani. She was in the Assembly, and she passed the Contraceptive Equity Bill in 1999, far ahead of its time. And that legislation was a model piece of legislation that was used when they were writing the Affordable Care Act to make sure that women had access to reproductive health care like they do here in Nevada already. So we're out in the forefront on a lot of issues when it comes to women. However, we still have not ratified the Equal Rights Amendment, which I find appalling in a state like Nevada. We're one of the first states to give women the right to vote, but yet now we don't want to see them as equal. We have a higher minimum wage in the state of Nevada than we do in other states. It's $8.25, but we still have women who are making 85 cents less than men. And if you're a minority woman, it's even worse. Minority women, if you're African American, you make about 65 cents to every man's dollar. And if you're a Hispanic woman, you make about 52 cents to every white man's dollar. That's unacceptable, that in 2014 we are still not being paid fairly for the work that we do when we're just as qualified, sometimes more qualified than our male counterparts. It's interesting, I always like to talk graduated the same year, yet he still makes more than me. And I run my own organization. And so it's just interesting that even in today's day and age, this is something that is a real fact that we deal with every single day, and we can do better. The other thing that we have to look at is the economic inequality in this country that is hurting women every single day. We know that women are primarily becoming the breadwinners in their families. More and more women are the ones out working. They're working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Yet a lot of times they're not able to get by because they're working low-wage jobs, because those are really the only jobs that are out there right now. And when they're working these low-wage jobs, they're not being given benefits, or they are they're being offered benefits. The key word here is offered. And those benefits, sometimes they can't even pay for those benefits. So then what's happening is these businesses are not paying them the $8.25, which is Nevada's minimum wage. They're paying them $7.25 because they're getting around through a loophole. So these are the things that are having an impact every day on women's lives. Making sure they have access to health care, making sure that they have access to reproductive health care, making sure that they have fair living wages, family-sustaining wages, so that this way they can get by and make ends meet and not have to rely on government subsidies just to pay the bills. The other thing that I want to make sure we talk about is this notion of, I want to make sure we cover the domestic violence and sexual violence components of this. Oftentimes, these are issues that are left out of this conversation, but when it comes to women's rights, we must address these things. One of the things that Progress Now works very hard on is gun violence prevention. I see your shirt over there. And we know that women disproportionately are affected by gun violence, specifically here in the state of Nevada. And so there are lots of different pieces of legislation that are out there that impact women's lives every single day that we can be doing better on. We can make sure that women have a safe and healthy environment when they go home. We can make sure that when they're taking their children to a movie theater, they don't feel threatened and they feel safe. We can make sure when they take their kids to school, they feel safe. That's just another component of women's rights. And one other component that's often left out of this conversation as well is equality when it comes to the LGBTQI community. We as feminists tend to sometimes leave out that community, and I have a real problem with that. I think that the LGBTQI community has to be a part of this conversation. Those people in that community are an integral part of this progressive movement that we're all in. And if we're not fighting for equal rights for all people, not just women, but all people, we are not doing our jobs. We have to make sure we're being inclusive of all folks, not just women. So I will leave it at that. I am very pleased to be here. Thank you for having me. I will tell you that, it's not just Planned Parenthood who I work for. I'm also the Southern Nevada co-chair of the Nevada Women's Lobby. I work on several other issues in the community with women, so I invite you to join us because we cannot do this alone. It can't just be me and Jocelyn out there screaming all the time, being the crazy people. We need all of you to join us as well. There's a lot of, what'd you say? Nope, Jocelyn Torres right behind you. And the other thing I was going to tell you is these are not the only issues that impact women and families. We will also work on the education initiative, which is going to be on the ballot this November. We work on several other progressive issues in the community, and we can't do this work alone, so we're going to need every single one of you to come and help us. So thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting women, and go out there and make a difference. Thanks.